Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, we're diving deep into the latest jaw-dropping developments from beyond the gates. Brace yourselves because things are about to get intense. Izaiah's shocking confession at Fairmont Crest has left us all on the edge of our seats, and in this video, we'll break down every detail, his hidden motives, the family secrets, and the explosive consequences that are about to unfold. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and leave a comment with your thoughts on what's coming next. Let's get started. Izaiah's footsteps echoed across the grand marble floor of Fairmont Crest, each step measured and deliberate, as though he were carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. The tension in the room was palpable, and every eye in the room fixed on him as he entered, his gaze cool and unwavering despite the turmoil swirling beneath the surface. For years, he had played his role with precision, a trusted friend, a seemingly loyal ally to the Dupree family. But now, in this very moment, he was about to reveal the truth, a truth so shocking it could unravel everything they thought they knew about him and the legacy he had been a part of. As he stood before them, the gravity of his words hung in the air like a storm ready to break. Izaiah had never been one to shy away from making difficult decisions, but the revelation he was about to share would change the course of everything: the family, their wealth, their power, and his own future. He started, his voice calm but heavy with the weight of years of secrets. "You've all known me as a friend of the family," he began, his eyes scanning the room, making sure each person was locked in on him. "But I've never been that." "Not really." The room went still, and it felt as if time itself slowed, as if the walls of Fairmont Crest, a symbol of power and influence, were suddenly closing in on them. "The truth is, I've been manipulating everything: the family, the business, even the very fabric of the relationships that hold you all together. You've all been pawns in a game I've been controlling from the shadows." He could feel the shock ripple through the room as the weight of his words landed. The gasps, the disbelieving stares, each reaction only served to tighten the grip of his confession. Izaiah had long known how to play the game. For years, he had maneuvered behind the scenes, pulling strings, ensuring that his influence was felt in every corner of the Dupree empire. He was a master at keeping his involvement hidden, at making himself seem indispensable while quietly shaping the course of their fate. But now, with everything on the line, he could no longer hide the truth. He wasn't just a bystander, a friend, or a confidant. He was the architect of the chaos that had engulfed their lives. He had orchestrated the political power struggles, the financial decisions that had led to the collapse of family alliances, and the personal betrayals that had shattered their trust. "You all think your problems have come from outside forces," Izaiah continued, his voice steady despite the emotional storm brewing within. "But the truth is, it's been me. All along." His confession hung in the air, leaving the room in stunned silence. It was as if the floor beneath them had cracked open, revealing the dark, hidden truths that had been festering for years. Izaiah's eyes flickered over to the faces in the room, faces he had once considered allies, faces that now looked at him with a mixture of disbelief and betrayal. "I'm not here to make amends," he continued, the hardness in his voice cutting through the tension. "I'm here to finish what I started. The plan is almost complete, and I intend to see it through to the end." He paused, letting the words sink in, watching as the implications of his statement took hold of those around him. The Dupree family had been built on a fragile foundation, and now, with Izaiah's admission, that foundation was crumbling. What they had once considered their strongest bonds were now nothing more than illusions, carefully crafted by the very man they had trusted the most. The room was still, the only sound the faint hum of the chandelier above them, as the weight of Izaiah's words settled in. The plan he spoke of, the one he had been working toward for so long, was not just a simple scheme to gain power, it was a complete overhaul of everything the Dupree family had worked to build. The consequences would be devastating, and the damage irreversible. As he spoke, Izaiah could feel the walls of Fairmont Crest closing in around him, the very house that had once been a symbol of his loyalty and ambition now seeming like a gilded cage. The family had been so blinded by their own sense of superiority that they had failed to see the cracks in their foundation, the subtle manipulation that had been taking place under their noses. And now, as Izaiah stood before them, those cracks were widening, threatening to tear the family apart. But Izaiah wasn't worried about the fallout. He had calculated every move, every decision, and now, with the end in sight, he was ready to play the final card. His plan, as he had revealed, was almost complete. He had set everything in motion, and nothing could stop him now. As the tension in the room mounted, Izaiah's resolve grew stronger. He had come to Fairmont Crest not as a friend, but as the architect of its downfall. His carefully crafted web of manipulation had worked. Now, he was ready to see it come to fruition. "What happens next," he continued, "is up to you. You can try to fight me, try to hold on to the pieces of this shattered family, but you'll only make it worse. I've already won." With those final words, Izaiah turned and walked toward the door, leaving the family in stunned silence. He knew the storm that would follow would be chaotic, but he was ready for it. After all, he had orchestrated it all. He had planted the seeds of destruction, and now, he would watch as everything he had worked for came to life. Fairmont Crest would never be the same. The Dupree family would never be the same. And neither would Izaiah. As he stepped out of the door and into the night, the sound of the door closing behind him seemed to echo throughout the halls of Fairmont Crest. It was the final act, the conclusion of a long and painful journey. And as the shadow swallowed him whole, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction. The game was over, and he had won. As the dust settles on Izaiah's shocking confession, the room at Fairmont Crest is filled with nothing but silence. Every face present is frozen in disbelief, struggling to process the gravity of what Izaiah has just revealed. The shockwaves from his words have reverberated through the very core of the Dupree family, leaving behind a tangled web of confusion, betrayal, and a thirst for retribution. The delicate balance of power that the family once held so tightly is now slipping through their fingers like sand, and with it, their unity and trust. Izaiah has not only exposed himself as the puppet master behind the family's darkest secrets, but he's also placed them all in a precarious position, forcing them to reckon with the ugly truth. In the days following the revelation, the fallout is swift and unforgiving. Each family member, once united in their shared mission and vision, now faces a reckoning of their own. Nicole, whose ambition and drive have always been the foundation of her relationship with the family, finds herself questioning everything she thought she knew about loyalty. She had always believed Izaiah to be a trusted confidant, a man whose wisdom and connections were integral to their success. But now, as the truth emerges, she is forced to confront her own role in enabling his manipulation, wondering how far she was willing to go for the sake of power. For the first time, she begins to question whether her ambition has blinded her to the deeper, more sinister forces at play within her own family. Meanwhile, Dani, whose personal and professional life has been a whirlwind of ambition, manipulation, and strategic alliances, finds herself at a crossroads. Her relationship with Izaiah, once solidified by a shared understanding of the game they were playing, now feels like a betrayal of the highest order. Dani's carefully curated image is shattered, and the very people she has manipulated for years are starting to see her as part of the problem rather than part of the solution. With her foundation crumbling beneath her, Dani must decide whether to double down on the lies and deception that have always served her or take a step back and rebuild her life on a more honest foundation, if that's even possible. Vernon, the patriarch of the Dupree family, is a man who has built his entire identity on power, control, and influence. The revelation that Izaiah has been pulling the strings behind the scenes leaves him feeling emasculated and vulnerable. His authority is questioned not only by his family but by the very people who once revered him as a pillar of strength. The shock of being played by someone he trusted so deeply shakes Vernon to his core, and it becomes clear that his leadership is no longer a given. The cracks in his once invincible facade are widening, and with each passing day, he is forced to confront the harsh reality that his grip on power is slipping, and it might not be long before someone else comes for his throne. As for the house itself, Fairmont Crest, its once majestic walls, a symbol of the Dupree family's success and dominance, now feel like a prison. The grand halls echo with the whispers of betrayal, and every room feels colder, emptier, as if the walls themselves are mourning the loss of the family's integrity. The foundation of everything they've worked for is crumbling, and no amount of money, influence, or power can undo the damage that has been done. The future of the family is uncertain, and the questions linger: can they survive this monumental shift, or will they tear each other apart in the process? For Izaiah, the game is far from over. His confession was merely a stepping stone in a much larger plan, one that he has been meticulously orchestrating for years. But as he watches the Dupree family struggle with the aftermath of his actions, he can't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. His objective was never to destroy the family, it was to expose them for what they truly are: broken, fractured, and vulnerable. And now, as he watches their world crumble, he knows that the next phase of his plan will be even more calculated and more dangerous than before. Izaiah has already won the first battle. But there's still much more to come, and the stakes have never been higher. In the coming weeks, tensions will continue to rise. Secrets that have been buried for years will come to light, alliances will be tested, and the family will have to face the consequences of their choices. For the Dupree family, survival is no longer about power, it's about trust. And as they grapple with the fallout from Izaiah's confession, they must decide whether they can rebuild what has been lost or whether this is the beginning of the end for them. The fate of Fairmont Crest, and the Dupree legacy, rests on a knife's edge. Will they rise from the ashes of betrayal, stronger and more united than before, or will Izaiah's calculated manipulation destroy them all? The answer lies within the choices they make in the coming days, and those choices will define their future forever. But one thing is certain: nothing will ever be the same again. The Dupree family's world has been irrevocably changed, and as the storm of betrayal, manipulation, and retribution continues to swirl around them, only the strongest will survive the chaos.